The following presentation is brought to you by the Realm Network.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Vixens Who Rule. Listen, I got to tell everybody up front, this is why Vince Russo's smarter than everybody else, because everybody's doing the podcasting, we're all doing the podcasting, but nobody does the video podcasting. And the reason why I went into the video podcasting was because I knew I was going to bring a lot of beautiful, and in this case, exotic women on my show. How do I do a Gail Kim interview without looking at Gail Kim?
That's actually really smart. And I had discussed that with JB. Actually, we're talking about all the podcasts that were going around. And we said, nobody does a video podcast. And I think that would be really smart for the women, except for us who have to get ready. Because remember, when you asked me to do it and you said camera ready, I'm like, oh, on my day off. But...
Gail, you know, it's so funny. I went through the same thing with Madison a couple of weeks ago. The minute I told her it was video, she totally freaked. But I got to tell you, video is not only a big treat for the viewers of this, but for me. You know, being able to see you again and talk to you again, because it's been a couple of years, Gail.
It has been a really long time. But you know what? In this business, I feel like we can not see people for years, but we all have a connection regardless. And it's like no time has gone by. And I can see all my friends at a convention by chance. And who did I see recently? I can't remember. I hadn't seen them for years, but it was like, you know, just no time had passed.
Yeah, no, exactly, Gail. Yeah. And I'm very thankful that you're on the show and we can have this conversation. Now, Gail, one thing you got to learn about me, like, Gail, I don't know about you.
Right.
But I got to be honest with you. Like, I'm like kind of wrestled out. So on this show, like, I like to talk about wrestling as little as we possibly can.
Okay.
I like to talk about you, Gail Kim, history, get to know things. Gail, you know what's so funny? I spent so much time with you guys.
Yeah.
And Gail, you spent a lot of time with me, but you know how it is on television. There's so much work the day of. I can't believe when I walked away, I felt so close to a lot of people, but it was unbelievable to me how little I knew about everybody personally.
It's so true. And I just saw Beth Hardy the other day at the live events, and I hadn't seen her for a while, but I was just saying to her, you know, when the days go on and we have TVs, once the day starts, it's kind of like you get there, you can socialize with everybody. But then once you know what you're going to be doing that night, it's like you're in another zone and you don't see people. And then next thing you know, the show's over and you've seen a few handful of people.
Yeah, because it's amazing to me because, you know, when I bring my guest on, you know, I research everybody. And when I'm doing the research, I'm finding out such fascinating things about people that literally I worked with for 10 years.
Right.
And I'm like, how did I not know that? But we get so wrapped up at the TV, we don't have time to talk about our personal lives.
I know. It's so true. I don't even know some people's real names. I'll find out like 10 years later. I'm like, oh my God, that was their working name? Oh my goodness.
Gail, how ridiculous is that?
I know.
You know what's so funny? Like, I still keep, probably the two people I keep in touch the most are Bubba and Velvet.
Yes.
And, you know, and I just want to say for the record, I think that's a total work. I don't think Velvet would go out with Bubba in a million years. And everybody from TNA that I bring on here, I try to get a little bit more information. But it is comical to me the way they refer to each other as Bubba and Velvet.
It's just so funny because they were friends for so long. But actually, people might look on the outside and think, wow, those two just seem weird together, but they're actually very right for each other. I don't know if they'd like me talking about their personal lives, but this is just something generally. It's like all the women in wrestling are very strong, independent women, you know, as is Velvet. And I think I always told her, I'm like, you need a real man. You need a man that's going to be, because for me, I was always the one that wore the pants in the relationships until I met my husband. And that was the thing that I first noticed. I thought, wow, that guy is in charge. And that's what turned me on about him. And I think that's the same for Velvet. Like Bubba's, if you, everyone that knows him knows he's like a macho guy. And I think that he knows how to treat a woman. And I think Velvet was like, wow, this guy is for me. He's a strong guy.
And you know, the complete opposite of that, you know, Gail, having the privilege of knowing them both,
Yeah.
I know Bubba's heart, you know, once you get past the roughness of, you know, the New Yorker from Long Island, I know his heart. And Velvet on the other side, I've seen Velvet's hard side.
Yeah.
She's the biggest sweetheart on the face of the planet, but I've seen Velvet like legitimately mad. So
Yes.
like when you say they're made for each other, I absolutely see this. But now, Kim, Gail, you brought up something very interesting to me. You just said to me prior to meeting your husband, you always wore the pants in the relationship.
Yes.
Now, was that because you were Gail Kim, the wrestler and the celebrity, or does it go back even before you made a name for yourself in wrestling?
Yeah. I mean, it went a strong sense of independence. When I was 15, I went out and got my own job and I just was a workaholic. I just wanted to make my own money, spend my own money, and I was just kind of just on my own and I was great with that. And actually, it's kind of almost a hindrance in some ways because you don't allow people to help you. But my husband has really helped me with that where I'm okay with him helping me out. I'm okay with him taking care of me as long as I know I can take care of myself. So it's a good balance now. It's not the extreme,
Well,
me.
Gail, you know, you talk about going back to when you were 15, but I would have to think like once you became celebrity and once you became Gail Kim on TV, it probably had to get worse for you personally because I would think that guys dating you or guys you went out with, unless they were wrestlers, were probably intimidated by you to begin with. So if you put that combination with you having that dominant personality, I'm sure
Yeah.
that probably added it to it.
Uh, yeah, I guess they didn't act like they were intimidated, but they definitely let me lead. I mean, I definitely called the shots.
Now,
And
Gail, are you telling me that you slapped guys around when they got out of hand? Is that what you're telling me?
yeah, right. No, I did not. Well, I guess I always got my way. We'll put it that way.
Now, Gail, I know you met your husband when you were doing his show, correct?
Yes.
Now, was he familiar with the wrestlers at that?
No.
So that was his first introduction.
Yeah. I mean, the first person he met was Stephanie and Big Show. And then he was on set with Miz and Santino and JR. So it was, if you're in the normal world, as we call it, and walking into the wrestling world, it's kind of absurd. You walk into the ring and you see Big Show, who's a giant, and Santino is just hilarious that day. Miz is crazy. And then I come on set and he's like, oh, who's this girl with the little dress on? And he always talk about the dress I was wearing that day. And, that day it was Miz on set and he's telling Miz that I'm beautiful. And I'm saying to Miz, oh, I want him.
So Gail, it was on your side. It was an attraction at first sight then.
Oh, for both of us. Yes. Oh, yeah.
Gail, I got to ask you this. Listen, Gail, I don't know if you know this by now, but I'm going to tell you anyway.
Okay.
Gail, my whole 20 years in the wrestling business, do you know outside of Canada, I
Yes.
avoided ever leaving the country. I was always scared to death of leaving the country, so I used to get out of every trip.
Right.
Okay. However, since I've left TNA, now I gotta, shuck, jive, and move to make a
Yeah.
living. So literally this Friday, I'm going to the UK for my third time.
I love the UK.
Yeah. Now, Gail, I gotta ask you this: the accent. I love
Yeah.
that accent. I just,
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. Maybe because I'm a huge Beatle mark, but I love that accent. Was that part of the attraction for you?
I think so. I mean, I think every American girl or guy just finds it, well, that accent in particular sounds very classy and intelligent. And he's lost a little bit of it, but he still has it. And now, I mean, I don't really even hear it anymore, but of course, that's part of the appeal. An accent is always sexy.
Now, Gail, so like how, and I'm sure you've been asked this before, but so you're attracted to him. He's asking who's this girl.
Yeah.
How does the first date come about? How does Robert go about asking you out on that first date?
Well, it took a long time. We got to know each other and we just communicated and talked, through email and phone. And we didn't go out for a long time, actually. And it was the first time experiencing something like that, because normally you meet someone and the guy asks you out and you go out on a date and, whatever happens, happens. If you like him, you go on and whatever. But it was the first time that it was almost like a long distance relationship where you get to know someone first. And I will tell everyone out there, I highly recommend that, because you actually get to know each other and what you're all about and your similarities and your dislikes and likes and everything you have in common or uncommon. And it was just nice. It was just a different approach. And so it worked. Look, now we're married.
Well, Gail, I have to ask you this. I've had enough, knockouts on this show and women in this business on the show to know that, let's face it, a lot of them wind up dating and going out with wrestlers because, Gail, the lifestyle you guys have is very, very different to the average human being. And, to really understand the mind and the psyche of a wrestler, it's almost like you have to be a wrestler. So, I've had Angelina on, I've had Velvet on, I've had Madison on, and all of them dated wrestlers because they related to wrestlers. Did you now Robert was already a celebrity. So do you think that made a difference in you being able to, communicate to him as a guy not knowing anything about the wrestling business, but certainly knowing something about celebrity?
Oh yeah, definitely. It was, like you said, it's so hard to date. I mean, WWE, also in WWE, you have to lead a very selfish life because you have to give your life to them. Because if you want to be successful in a company, you have to. I mean, it's a sacrifice. And when I used to date guys back when I was in WWE, honestly, I would probably see them once a month, if that. And I was okay with that because I was very selfish. And then I met Robert and I decided, you know what, it's time to have balance in my life. And he was worth working towards a change. And not just that, it's like you said, you always find that the wrestlers are the only ones that understand you. But when I met Robert, it was like, okay, we're in totally different worlds. He's in food and I'm in wrestling, which is two opposite ends of the spectrum. But then at the same time, we both travel a lot on the road. We're both on TV. The lifestyles were very similar. So that's where it's still a challenge, even to this day. I mean, we're human beings. We're apart sometimes, but we still understand each other a lot more than the average human being would.
Now, Gail, I would have to think there had to be a point where, okay, I don't know anything about wrestling, but I've met this beautiful woman. I want to get to know more about her. There would have had to been a point where he would have had to start becoming a little familiar with your work. At any point, when he saw what you did he at any point say, "Are you absolutely out of your mind"?
No, I think, the first day he met me was at SummerSlam. So we filmed the show at SummerSlam and then I went and wrestled the pay-per-view. So he did his show and he went and he watched part of the show. So he kind of got an idea of what it was like live. And he saw Big Show and Randy Orton and all those guys. So to see it up front and live, you think it's insane, but he also appreciated the value of our hard work and what we put our bodies through and the entertainment value. And he'll always tell people all the time, he's like, I was never a wrestling fan, but if you watch a show live and the entertainment value, you buy tickets and you spend some money maybe on merchandise, but the payback you get for the money you spend is well worth it, because it's an amazing spectacle in person. But he's just so used to it. When he first started dating me, he knew more about me than I knew. He'd research about me and found out all about my history and, what kind of wrestler I was. And I think he just appreciated it and he was proud. He's like, wow, this girl's like, crazy.
Now, Gail, I have to ask you this. Like,
Yes.
I was there when Robbie came to one of the TV tapings. Obviously,
Yes.
I'm familiar with his show. Listen,
Yes.
as a writer, the
Yeah.
way he's put together and with that accent, and listen, he's obviously a part actor, being having his own show. You have
Yeah.
to be. He is so tailor made for at least an angle. Has nothing developed yet
Yes.
because that's his choice?
Yes, that's his choice. I mean, of course, people have brought it up, and he looks the part, but I think he's such a softie, and he probably wouldn't want me to say that, but I think I'd rather just have him just watch what I do, and he's fine doing his thing and me doing my thing. Maybe one day. I mean, you never say never, but
Now, Gail, I would have to think that, with your lifestyle and his lifestyle, I would have to think a reality show has had to have been pitched.
yes, that has been pitched too. And our wedding was aired on Food
I
Network.
know that,
And
right?
so it did really well, apparently, in ratings, without any advertising and everything. It's just you kind of get the wrestling crowd, and then you get the food crowd, and everybody likes a happy story. So it did well, and we hear ideas of it here and there, but I think if we ever did anything together, we just want it to be right,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
we're both not about train wreck TV, and we're both not about, and we're kind of both a little bit personal, but we also understand that, we're public figures, and people like to know things about us and see us, and, I don't know. I mean, I'm always open-minded to something. I just want it to be right.
Okay. Now, Gail, I want to go back. I want to talk about you a little bit because I was not surprised.
Yeah.
I worked with you. I know how
Yeah.
intelligent you are. I know how
Yeah.
well spoken you are. I did not know. You have a college degree from
Yeah.
Ryerson.
Yes. I
Okay.
don't have a degree.
Okay.
So we'll correct that. I went to 2 years of college in University of Toronto, and then 2 at Ryerson.
Okay. What were you going for? What were your aspirations before wrestling?
So mean, I switched it all the time through high school. I went from wanting to be a broadcaster to a chiropractor, and then finally, when I decided to go to college, I started to study kinesiology. Then 2 years in, I'm very spontaneous. I'm kind of that personality where all of a sudden I'm like, I want to change my major. So I tried applying to Ryerson, and I got in for their nutrition program. Honestly, I had no idea. I just knew I was interested in fitness, health, but I didn't have a strong passion for it. And I was kind of just going down that typical structured road that my parents wanted me to go to. They say go to college, get a degree, marry a doctor or a lawyer.
Hmm.
And then, I mean, honestly, I think it was either when I was switching over to Ryerson or before that, I got hooked on wrestling, pro wrestling again. And it was just like an obsession. I couldn't miss Monday Night Raw, and the girls it was when they had a really strong women's division. And I just thought, oh my God, there's no Asian woman there, and I think I can do it. And then just spontaneously, found a wrestling school and
But
left.
Gail, I got to ask you this question
Yeah.
because it's so funny how we develop in the business. Okay,
Mhm.
like I get so much heat because I'm the entertainment guy, and
Yeah.
I don't think wrestling. Well, people have to understand
Yeah.
the first time when I was ever switching the dial around,
Mhm.
all of a sudden I came across Captain Lou Albano and the Valiant Brothers. So immediately I saw this entertainment and this spectacle of these three guys that were just larger than life. It was
Yes.
so that's why with me it was always the entertainment aspect of the business. But
Mhm.
like so here you are going to college, bouncing around different majors, but then you say I got hooked on wrestling. What was the hook?
The hook was the storyline.
So it was the storylines.
It
It
was.
wasn't the actual athleticism of the women at the time.
No. So it was the storyline. It was the entertainment. Actually, the storyline exactly was the Tess, Stephanie, and Triple H storyline. When Hunter tricked Stephanie into marrying him, and everything with Tess. And then I started watching, and that's when I saw the women just, because I was watching the show. And then I got really hooked on that aspect of it. And so, yeah, I mean, it was the entertainment that got me, though.
Now, Gail, it did not take you
Mhm.
long
No.
from that time to make your way to the WWE.
Right.
And not only that, obviously, it did not take you long to make noise in the WWE. Your first match, it's in a battle royal type thing, but you
Hmm.
become the women's champion. And this
Yeah.
is 2002.
Yeah.
Now, Gail, I got to ask you, and I think we talked a little bit about this, but I want to talk a little bit more about it. So I'm thinking, I was in that spot.
Hmm.
If we put the belt on Gail Kim in her very first match, obviously we have high hopes for this girl. Two
Yeah.
years later, Gail Kim is released.
Yeah.
What happened?
I think that at that time it was really hard to get hired, and there weren't many. You had to be an indie worker, you had to have the experience. And Tracy Brooks and I and Beth Phoenix came in and we tried out, and the week before they had apparently, from what I heard, horrible tryout over in California where the girls weren't very good. And then we came and we all knew how to work. And I don't know. I know that Edge had put in a good word for me, but I had the perfect match that day with Nydia, and they were impressed. And so they were so impressed. They're like, you don't even need developmental. And I went to developmental though, and I was still honestly so green. And I know everyone knows the story, but I was so green and inexperienced. And even though I had the athletic ability, and I think that's what they saw, they're like, wow, this is the female Rey Mysterio. And so they had hyped me up so much in their mind without really seeing all of me. And I was just like a deer in headlights thinking, just happy to be there and
Mm-hmm.
doing whatever. And, when you're that green, you're green, but you don't know how green you are. And so, you start at the top. The only place you can go down is down, right? And, but, it was all a learning experience. And
But Gil, here's the part that surprises me. Even though you yourself admit you were still a
yeah,
little bit green,
yeah,
I mean, obviously the potential was there.
yeah,
So, like,
yeah.
based on potential alone, and me knowing how you work and that
Mhm.
potential came to fruition. It's interesting to me how after 2 years, how you can give up on a Gail Kim.
It was weird to me too, because I was starting to feel like I was on a roll. I was actually just starting to feel comfortable right before I got released. And I was actually feeling very positive and felt like I was getting on a roll, and I felt like everyone else was on board, but apparently Vince didn't think so. So, you know, I was caught off guard. I will admit that to this day. I was caught off guard. And so I never went into any type of depression or anything kind of sadness. I was more like just shocked. And then after the shocked aspect of it, I went into total motivational mode. Like, oh, I thought I was going to quit wrestling because my passion was killed. And so I started going into stunt work. But then as soon as TNA called, my passion came back. And then I was just like full on, I'm going to kill it mode. And, TNA gave me the opportunity.
Gail, can I get in the psyche
Yeah.
of a wrestler for a minute?
Okay.
Because this is like, to me, I think this is like almost extraordinary because I think I would handle it total differently, me as a human being. Okay.
Okay.
Now you very young, just
Yeah.
getting into business off the bat, you're in the WWE. So
Yeah.
you weren't one of these people, oh, it's my dream, like the
Right.
Kevin Owens story,
Yeah.
10, 15 years, and finally I make it there. You,
It was my dream for 2 years.
yeah, well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. You
Yeah.
start at the top,
Yeah.
okay? Now, I want to get in your head a little bit. You start at the top, you're caught off guard,
Yeah.
and you're released.
Yeah.
Now, even though TNA calls,
Yeah.
the WWE is still the show. It is
Right.
still the place to be. So, as a professional, I would think my goals are I wanted to be at the WWE. I'm not there anymore. Now I'm with TNA.
Yeah.
It's almost like there has to be in your mind, I'm not going to, I may not get back there again. And if that's the case, like, what am I striving for?
Honestly, I never even thought about going back. I mean, the fact that I even went back, if someone had told me that, I wouldn't have believed them. I didn't think in that sense. I didn't think, oh, I want to make it back to WWE. Honestly, my true feelings were I was never happy there the first time and the second time, but let me get to that point. But I wasn't happy there the first time. They killed my passion the first time. So for me, I just wanted to be happy and I wanted to do what I loved. And so when I went to TNA, I mean, you were there when I left to go back to WWE, and that was strictly a business decision, and you knew that. I was bawling my eyes out when I left. I didn't want to leave. That was just a decision I had to make because of financial situations and the point at which I was in my career. I was like, I'm still at my prime, and I got a lot of years left. I can't just stay here and just take what I was offered when I knew I could get more. And for me, I look back and I just think, well, it kept me fresh. I went from that company to this company, back to the company, and back to the company.
Yeah, but Gail, see, that's another interesting thing to me. You love TNA. It's a business decision, totally understand, but you're going back to a place that you really don't want to go back to. That mentally has to screw with you. How were you able to be mentally strong in order to leave behind something you loved and kind of go back to a place that, let's face it didn't work out the first time.
Right.
It might not work out the second time. Like,
Yeah.
How do you cope with that on a mental level?
From what I remember, I just feel like, okay, I was really disappointed I had to leave TNA. But luckily, everyone was like a family, and I felt like I left on good terms. So when I made the decision to go back to WWE, I was really optimistic. I was really positive. I really hoped, you know what? I was so green back then. Now I've grown into a more well-rounded wrestler, entertainer. Okay, here's my shot, So I went in feeling great. And honestly, with WWE, it takes, for me, both times, it took about 2 years to become unhappy. About that point, a year and a half to 2 years. This last time, 2 years. So, I made great friends. I love a lot of the people from there, but it's just not me. It was never my home. It was never, I was just there at the wrong times too. I felt like,
But what was it? What was it that, basically what it sounds like to me was Gail Kim and her personality and the person she is just didn't fit in there, and it didn't feel like home.
Right.
What was it, Gail? Was there not enough, one-on-one, hands-on? Was there not enough feeling like maybe people genuinely cared about you? Like, what was missing there that you had in TNA?
I feel like with TNA, it's always been a very positive environment for me. I thrive in environments where you can be yourself, number one. I always use you as an example of how I felt comfortable because, let's face it, my strength in wrestling is in the ring. It's never my talking. But you had even said to me, talking's not your strong suit. But the thing is, TNA always never gave up on me. They let me talk. They knew that's how I was going to connect to the audience.
And Gail, I got to tell you something. I'm being totally honest. When you look at Gail Kim, Gail Kim is beautiful. Gail Kim has a beautiful smile.
Yes.
The people love Gail Kim. Okay. So you're Gail Kim's a babyface.
Yeah.
Gail, I got to tell you, once we put that heel label on you, that your character, I mean, literally went from here to here.
Right.
Being the heel, which, like I said, when we see you, you're a babyface. She's got to be a babyface. But all of a sudden, because I knew, you were struggling with the other side of wrestling, which was the character and all that, I just said, well, let's try her as a heel. What was it that, like, when you became, there had to be something inside.
I think that what it is that it's easier to make the crowd hate you than love you in our minds, comfort level wise. And it's just fun to play a character. Whereas, baby faces, especially as women, I find, and guys too, it can be very generic. I just remember being in WWE and everyone just at Gorilla kept on saying, smile, wave, smile. It was the same,
right.
You got to smile more. You got to smile more. I'm like, this is boring.
Right.
So to play a character and to play heel with Karen and Madison, I mean, that was so much fun for me to come in and bounce off of the two best heels in the company. I was like, okay, this is easy.
Yeah. Now, Gail, I want to ask you one more wrestling question, and then I want to ask you some generic things, like opinion things.
Okay.
The first question I got to ask you is this. I was reading an interview where when you left WWE a second time, like you I don't know if this is right or not, that's why I'm asking you, but you basically said, I think it was an interview with The Sun, that I would never go back there again.
Right.
Okay, so you did say that at one point.
Yeah.
Okay, now, Gail, I have to ask you this. we don't know where TNA is. I mean, let's be honest. It's on today. I know there's another show in the can, I believe, so that'll cover next Wednesday. From what I know, as of this point, there's no TV tapings have been announced. So I mean, I know nothing, but obviously with such big a question mark, you have to look at, listen, I got to tell you something. Somebody in your company made the comment the other day in management, and I'm not going to say who it is. Somebody made the comment that everybody's rooting for TNA to go out of business. And I got to tell you, I got so pissed off because I'm like, let me tell you something, Gail. Gail, listen, I got issues with John Gaborik and Dixie Carter. I love a lot of people at TNA. Yeah. The last thing I want to see are people like you and Abyss and Bobby Roode and on, not have a place to work. So right. I want this thing to work out. But when the comment was made, I said, listen, there is not a wrestling fan in the world rooting for TNA to go out of business. If you're rooting for TNA to go out of business, you're not a wrestling fan.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that simple. So I really got annoyed with that, but we have to look at the possibility of that now.
Right.
If that happens, Gail, what happens to Gail Kim? Because let's face it now, there is the option of the WWE for a third time. There is obviously, you'd be huge in Japan, but that would mean being on the road, being away from Robert. I don't know if you want to do that. So this has had to, be on your mind, I would think, the last couple of months.
I'm not that worried, to be honest. Like, I feel like maybe people might call me naive, but I've always felt very positive and supportive towards Impact. And I think the fans see that, and I don't feel negatively in terms of our future, because everyone has always said, oh, they're going out of business. And yes, it's been a really low point this year, but somehow we always just hang on. And I feel like, we had a point where our morale was very low when all of this was going down. And then we had this huge set of tapings that was like 9 shows long. Mm-hmm. You should have seen the morale. I mean, the fact that we just all came together, and I just feel like if we get the opportunity, the roster is golden, because everyone's so talented and so passionate and respectful of each other. And and wrestling fans, yes, there's the TNA haters and there's the WWE loyalists, or whatever you want to call them, that may hate us. But honestly, like you said, they're not true wrestling fans, because we're all out here trying to bust our ass for the fans and to entertain them. And the wrestlers all need somewhere else to go, if they don't want to work in WWE. So you
feel positive about it then?
Yeah, I really do.
I'm glad to hear that.
I do.
Yeah, good. I'm very glad to hear that.
And whoever said that, I find that crazy.
Yeah, I got really pissed off by that. I'm like, moron. Nobody's rooting for these guys to be out of work. You know what I mean? Anyway,
I don't want to know who said it.
Yeah, can we talk a little bit of just opinions, theories, things that interest me?
Okay.
And Gail, you can be honest with me, right?
Yeah.
Gail, I want to get one thing out of the way, though. That's a little side thing. And I wasn't going to bring this up.
Okay.
But it's in Wikipedia, so it's a public thing.
Okay.
And I'm interested in this. I'm curious about this.
Okay.
That's why I'm bringing it up.
Okay.
Okay. So if it's in Wikipedia, I could bring it up, right?
Sure.
Okay. Gail,
it's a part of my life.
Okay, good. I got to ask you about this, because I'm fascinated by this, but I'm also concerned about this, and I want to understand it. Okay.
Yeah.
Gail, I know when I was at TNA, you missed some time because there was I don't even know what you'd call it, an implant explosion?
Yes.
Or what's the right phrasing for me?
I have the world record for most implant ruptures.
Okay, I'm glad you have the world record because I want to have
In wrestling.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I want to have this conversation with you because I need to be schooled on this. Okay.
That's in Wikipedia. That's so funny.
Yeah, it's on Wikipedia. That's why I was like, I always wanted to find out more about this.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to ask, but if it's on Wikipedia, it's out there. Okay,
I don't have a problem talking about it.
Yeah, I'm so interested in this because I want to understand this because it concerns me.
Okay.
When the implant ruptures.
Yeah.
Now, there's either saline in there or saline is in there, right?
Yeah.
Okay, now.
Well, I mean, you can have saline or you can have silicone.
But saline is like the safest way, and more people have saline, correct?
More people have silicone actually these days.
Really?
Yes, they've started switching over, and it's a more natural look and feel, they say, and stronger. So a lot of people go that route, but mine's old school, I guess, in its saline.
See, Gail, here's my concern, man. First of all, I have to ask you this. Mm-hmm. Gail, I'm not being a pervert. I'm not a girl, so this stuff's interesting to me.
Right.
Like when it happens, immediately?
No, not the first time. So I've had 4 ruptures, and a lot of people don't know this. They know about 1 or 2 maybe.
Right.
It's not a big deal to me to talk about it. It's actually, number 1 is the best injury to have because you can come back the fastest from it. I mean, I was off for maybe 2.5 weeks, The first time it happened was in WWE against Victoria in a house show. And all I remember is I was giving her the move, but I took the bump on the move. It was just a different kind. It was almost like my finish, but a little bit different. And I remember thinking, oh my God, I feel like I got kicked in my armpit. Like it just felt like this massive pain for a good 30 seconds. And honestly, I didn't even know till the next day when I went to the gym and I walked by the mirror and I thought, oh, I look different. My top looks different. And then I went, wait a minute. And then Victoria was with me, and we're both like, oh my God. And so we had to call the office, and they flew me home to Toronto and got it fixed. And
okay, now Gail, here's my question really, because it's health related. Mm-hmm. Now, when the saline, literally, if it ruptures, that saline now is going in your body, right?
Yeah, it's salt water though, so it's good.
Now, but what about in the case of silicone?
Yeah, so that's apparently way harder for it to rupture. So it's almost like Melina had told me a story where the doctor grabbed, to show her how strong it was, grabbed the implant and threw it against the wall and slammed it against the wall to show her how strong it was. And apparently, even if you cut through with a knife, it still stays kind of intact. So, when I did rupture for the 4th time, I talked to my doctor about it, but he said with your job, and yes, it's slim chances of silicone or cohesive gel rupturing, but he said if it does, then it's a bigger mess to clean up and more of a risk. So he said just stick with the same, and then when your career is done, if you want to do it, then do it. But so I stuck with it.
Now, Gail, let me ask you this question too. Mm-hmm. Did you make the decision to do that based on wrestling and appearance?
No, I did that way before wrestling, to be honest. So I mean, it's just something, I don't know. I guess it was an insecurity in high school. I don't know. I don't remember feeling insecure about it. I just felt like that's what I wanted.
Gail, can I ask you some questions?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I always dealt with these issues, and that's why I do a show, Vixens Who Rule, because I love to talk to the women to really understand, because in my position, there were some things I did not understand. I did not know if I was making a right decision or a wrong decision, because I'm not a woman. I'm a guy, okay? Gail, let me say this. This is the totally God-honest truth. Yeah. When I worked with Knockouts and Divas, Gail, I was the kind of guy, first of all, I knew, I never, ever wanted to be involved in sexual harassment.
Yep.
I mean, anything like that. I mean, Gail, I've been married. I just had my 32nd year wedding anniversary.
Cool.
Okay? Yeah, and I was never that way.
Right.
So, like, I was always so respectful to the women wherever I was.
were.
And I'll be honest with you, Gail, I literally, this is a shoot.
Yeah.
I would look at gorgeous, beautiful women like they were more my daughters than anything I was attracted to. So with that, Gail, when I looked at a Gail or a Velvet or it doesn't matter who it was, I never looked at the body. Like I never like, oh my God, Gail's body. To me, I love the beauty. I love the beauty of the face. Yes. I never looked at like the body and the boobs and I never looked at that stuff. I wasn't interested in that stuff.
Right.
On the other hand, I was around the girls long enough to know the work that you guys put into your bodies.
Yes.
The work at the gym, the dieting. I've had conversations with Tara. She smartened me up a lot about like cosmetics, which I was just totally naive to. She smartened me up. But like I know you girls lived in the freaking gym, were always dieting, and you took such great pride in your bodies. Mm-hmm. So where I was coming from, I was looking at, I know how hard these girls work on their bodies and how proud they are of their bodies. I look at the female body as that's a gift from God. I mean, as a man, he gave us the female body to look at. That's how I look at it. So my theory was these girls are proud of their bodies. They work hard on their bodies. They probably want to go out there and show their hard work. And that's how I always looked at it. But then from the other side of the fence, there was always this argument of exploiting women and putting them out there half naked and this, that, and the other thing. And like, to me, like that was looking at it from a sexual angle. And I was looking at it more like, I know how hard these girls work on their bodies, and it's part of their job. And I always thought like the girls wanted to showcase their physiques, much like the guys did.
Right.
What's the mentality of the female wrestler? I'm sure it changes from woman to woman.
Yes.
But like, what's the basis?
I think my feeling is that you're right. We all know it's a part of our job. And I think times have kind of changed. Like there's been the PG era, and then, there's other eras, right? But the Attitude Era, that was very extreme, which you were a part of. I think it honestly is up to the individual. And see, for me, and I just talked about this in an interview, I was fine being sexy and showing my body to an extent to my comfort level. Mm-hmm. I wasn't like a Sable or, but it takes time to realize that, because you look at these women on TV and you know the business and you think, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. But then after a while, you realize, well, that's not my sexy. My sexy is being in the ring and being, maybe dressing the part to my comfort level. If you watch me in the beginning of my career or when I started in the business, it was all about the chest. And, all the girls were very chesty and showing that. And then now as you watch through the years, it's not really about that. And, I went through a whole probably years of like 5 or 6 years. I'm not even showing any cleavage at all. But I still had my own sex appeal or whatever it was, I think nowadays we don't feel the pressure as much because there's been some women like the Litas and the AJs who kind of stuck to their guns in terms of who they were, and it's still connected to the crowd. And I think the crowd appreciates that, and they see, okay, that person is genuine. They're really them, and everyone's going to have something different to offer. So I just feel like through the years I've just kind of accepted how I was sexy, and now I stick to my guns.
Gail, can I ask you a question? And I don't look for names or that's not me. I'm not interested in that. But when you say pressure, okay, do you think, Gail, a lot of that pressure to show the body, for the females, do you think a lot of that pressure was in their minds, or like did you ever have a situation in your
I
career where somebody may have pressured you? Hey, you're wearing a little bit too much.
oh the only thing that I can come to mind is when I first started in WWE. I had started on the indies, and they're like, okay, you're gonna have your first house show because we're right near, in your backyard in Mississauga, Ontario. And I said, okay, great. And they said, your first match is gonna be a bra and panties match with Dawn Marie. And I had never had a bra and panties match before, so I was just like, bra and panties, okay, So I had my first bra and panties match, and it was fine. I went over, so I didn't even have to take anything off, really, which was great. And then so I get to TV that week, and Johnny says to me, well, you're the baby face, and you still got to give them what they want. So even though you go over, you got to, basically strip down, which was like, what now, 12 years ago or something, 10 years ago. And so I was
Now,
mortified.
I want to tell you this, Gail, before you go on. I've had about 100 Johnny Ace impressions on this show. That was the first female Johnny Ace impression.
I
So
wasn't really
yeah, I want to thank you for that. But go ahead with the story, please.
I wasn't trying to impersonate him, but and so I had to do that. And we're all young and dumb at some point, and you do whatever they want you to do. And so the next time I was on the live events, I had to do it, and I'm embarrassed to this day. And it always comes back to haunt you, because years later, I'm at Madison Square Garden, and a fan is like, okay, can you sign this photo?
Oh,
and it's
no.
basically a photo. I don't even want to say to this day and remind people what I did back then, but it wasn't a photo of my face. Okay?
Oh my God!
And I said, no, I'm not signing that.
Good for you. Good for you.
Yeah.
Now, Gail, you gotta listen. You gotta smarten me up on this, but you gotta be honest with me.
Yeah.
And we don't mention names. I'm not interested in any names.
Okay.
It's more overview. Okay.
Okay.
Listen, Gail, maybe it's because I'm so naive. I'm very
Yeah.
naive for my age,
Yeah.
Gail, okay?
Okay.
I like to think the good all the time, okay?
Right.
I want to talk about politics in
Yeah.
genders.
Okay.
And here's what I want to talk about. Gail, I saw it 100% of the time with the guys.
Right.
Okay. I saw guys that were literally, best friends with another guy.
Yeah.
Bury them behind their back to me to get the spot. It happened a million times.
Right.
I saw it. I witnessed it. It was, and
Yeah.
I don't mention names or stories. That's not important.
Okay.
Trust me, I saw it a lot. Gail, I don't know if I'm naive. I don't know if I'm stupid. Now, I will tell you this. Early on in the WWE, and you'll appreciate this.
Yeah.
You got to remember, man, it was funny. Luna Vachon was still there.
Yeah.
And Sonny and Sable were coming in. So it was like not only a changing of the guard, but a changing of styles.
Yeah.
Okay? And Luna made it clear to everybody. She hated Sonny.
Right.
She hated Sable. She wanted to kill both of them. As a matter of fact, Gail, she went after Sonny one time. I stood in front of Sonny and took the brunt of it. Luna almost killed me.
Yeah.
So, back in that time, I was dealing with politics with women.
Right.
Gail, I have to tell you this, and maybe I'm naive. I don't know. I spent 10 years at freaking TNA, and there were a lot of knockouts there. Of most of the time, it was you, and it was Tara, and it was Angelina,
Yeah.
and it was Velvet. I never saw politics when it came to the T. Now, listen, there'd be days where this one was pissed off at that one, but I never saw politics anywhere near the level of the guys. Why is that?
I truly believe in it's how you run the locker room. And anytime I've been part of TNA, me as a person in my real life, whether it's with my friends, my husband, whatever, if I have something irking me, I can't keep it to myself. It has to come out. And so I'm really good with communicating, I think, when something's bothering me. So my experience, at least, I can only speak about my experiences in the locker room in TNA, has always been, if we have an issue, we normally talk about it, and I think that that's the best way to go about it, because a wrestling locker room or roster is huge, and you know the business as well as I do. You start with one thing being said, and then by the time it gets to the fifth person, it's the total opposite end of the story. So it's just best when you talk about it. And our girls' locker room, especially right now, is very good and we're so cohesive, and we're just all about each other and having a good locker room. Nobody likes a negative locker room. It's horrible to work in, and the matches suffer and people become selfish, and I just think it's just best if you talk about it and you're giving to one another.
But Gail, you had to be like a little upset. Remember, there was
Mm-hmm.
a long period of time there
Mm-hmm.
where Mickey had that like rat running around in the
Who?
that rat running around in the girls' locker room.
Oh, they're dog.
Yeah, I mean, come on. Somebody had to want to
We
cut a
love
promo on.
Elvis.
Somebody had to want to cut a promo on her with that mutt running around.
Honestly, I mean, maybe from time to time, just like in high school or anywhere else or any other place of work, people might have issues, but right now we're just so good. I have no complaints. I really like all the girls I work with, and I know it sounds so boring, right? People
Gail,
like to see
I
the
have to ask you this
juicy
because
gossip.
you're an exception to the rule, and I want to ask you this question.
Yeah.
Gail, you have no idea
Mm-hmm.
how many people now, because Gail, I bring on sometimes like 2 or 3 guests a week, and
Right.
I talk to a lot of people,
Mm-hmm.
and you'd have no idea how many good people that could help the business
Right.
are on the outside looking in.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to tell you, Gail, for the majority of these people that I interview, once I talk to them for an hour, and many of them I know,
Yeah.
they're good people.
Right.
And they have very, very good hearts.
Right.
And Vince Russo used to say all the time, man, you can't have a good heart and exist in the wrestling business. You can't be a good person because it's a political environment. It's every man for himself. And if
I think in WWE, maybe not nowadays.
yeah, well,
I don't know what it's like.
more in WWE.
Yeah.
But like, if you don't, let me put it to you this way.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't play the game because it's not in your nature, you're probably not going to win. Let me put it to you that way, okay? A guy that comes to mind that because I mean, there's a whole slew of other guys, but like I know you worked with Matt Morgan.
Okay.
The biggest sweetheart of a guy. The fact that somebody like him is a main event, because I know he wasn't he was a great human being,
Yeah.
Now, Gail, I know you, and I know you're one of those people.
Mm-hmm.
How have you been able to maintain, the longevity and such a, iconic career, basically being true to yourself? That's difficult in wrestling.
That's all in my environment. That's all been my opportunity from TNA. I'm giving them full credit because they made me always feel like I could be myself, and were very supportive and positive. And I never felt like, if I screwed up in WWE, then God, that was the end of it, you never get another chance. Or with TNA, I just grew, and your confidence grows when you're in a positive environment. And I don't know, I was always, and I always believed, and I'd heard this many times early in my career from Eddie Guerrero too, when I got fired. He said, the name of the game is wrestling, and if you're good at it, you'll always have a job. And if you can make other people look good as well, that helps too. And I just always felt like I wanted to be giving. I never wanted to dominate matches. I never wanted to be selfish. I was always like, I want to have a great match. I want to entertain the fans. Like, what? Okay, so if I dominate a match and I'm really selfish, how entertaining is that for the fans? It's not. And that's why I think my success in this business has been having good matches, entertaining the fans, and keeping it interesting and fresh. And that's always been my thing. I need to keep it fresh. I need to keep it, innovative. And that's just been my key to success.
Gail, I want to ask you a question, and please, I am by no means picking on TNA.
Yeah.
But I worked at WWE and I worked at TNA. So, like, I know what you're talking about. And let's face it, man, at the WWE, it begins and ends with Vince McMahon, end of story, period.
Right.
However, and that's the way he runs the ship, period, end of story. And let's face it, the most successful wrestling company in history.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's the way it's run.
Absolutely.
I got to say this, though, on the other side of the coin, TNA, and listen, I'll say this to anybody who asks me. I don't think you'll ever meet a sweeter person than Dixie Carter on the planet. I really don't. Hey, Gail, I got to tell you, and you don't even know this, but I was consulting when Dixie took that spot from Bubba.
Right.
And I got so much heat with Dixie because I did everything I could do to try to stop it.
Right.
For somebody to be taking their first bump and a bump like that, I was scared to death that she was going to get hurt. And I cared so much about her as a human being. I got into an argument with her. And I was like, you can't do this. Don't, it's wrestling. They're going to try to, you can't do this. And, I think she wound up breaking a couple of bones in her back, whatever the case may be. But my point is, that's how much I love the woman. Okay, and still do. There are business things I don't agree with, but we're talking personal.
Right.
But on the business level, I found this in my own case when I worked there. For 10 years that I was there, one of the biggest issues were I felt, even in my own job at times, nobody was ever really held accountable for anything. There was never any accountability where, like, with Vince, you could screw up once and it could be done. I mean, you
froze for a little bit. You said, I don't know if I missed something.
No, I basically said, as far as accountability goes, at the WWE with Vince McMahon, you could screw up one time and that's the end of it.
Yeah.
That's it. Everybody is accountable for themselves. At TNA, even my job, I always felt there was a lack of accountability. I used to speak up about that. I used to think that, people were just not being held accountable. Now, I got to ask you something, Gail.
Yeah.
Even though that's a much easier working environment to work in, at the end of the day, though, isn't that going to stifle the success of the company?
I think so, yes, in terms of, everything's got its pros and cons. And, when people talk to me about working for both companies, I always say, yes, WWE is the company that to the outside world is a company to work for. And then, Impact Wrestling to most wrestling fans probably wouldn't be. But it's strange, though, that my happiness lies in that company. So, I've just learned I think everyone's going to be different. Like we talked about, I'm not a right fit for WWE. That's not so I've kind of accepted the flaws that Impact Wrestling has had, and we hope to improve them. We're always trying to improve it all the time. And then we just make best of what we are given. And I think we've done great. So, it could hurt. But I think even though we have these flaws, when we go out there, we still deliver gold.
Yeah, Gail, listen, I say this all the time. When I'm critical about today's product, Gail, here's the thing that amazes me. Obviously, I'm not into wrestling the way I used to be. I'll be honest with you. The more and more and more it becomes more wrestling and less story and less character driven, the less and less a fan I am. I mean, I'm just being honest. So when I'm critical about WWE or TNA, my critique is always coming from a creative standpoint.
Right.
I got to tell you this, Gail. When it comes to the WWE, when it comes to TNA, I've never seen harder workers in that ring in my life.
Yeah.
I will never critique a match. I will never critique anybody's performance, because all you can ask the wrestlers is, work as hard as you possibly can, and you see that 100% of the time. Everybody's working their butt off, but unfortunately, that's not going to dictate the success or failure of a company.
Right.
When decisions are made at levels that you have no control over, that's gonna. But that's one thing that makes me proud to say I was in the business. I've never in my life experienced work ethic of professional wrestlers. And here's the thing: like, you can watch sports, baseball, football, sometimes like you'll see players going through the motions, like a guy won't run full bore to first base.
Yep.
But you never see that in wrestling. What is it about wrestlers that every time you step between those ropes, whether it's 100 people or 10,000 people, you have to give your best performance? What is that?
It's passion. I mean, I guess it's the amount of passion you have. For me, it's an automatic. I can't, I'm a perfectionist in the ring. So, I could have the best match, and if the fans aren't there, I could feel crappy. And then I could have a crappy match and fans are there and I can feel better. But then I'll still tear it apart. You just always want, for me inside, I can't speak for other people because, there's people who do go out there and give 100% every single time. And then there's some people who don't, but you'll see that, and the fans see that, and it's, they'll see right through it. So I always try to give my best, and I always want to be the best. I want to be better than the guys, so that's just always been my mentality. I think it's passion. That's what it is.
Now, Gail, I'm going to ask you two questions. One's going to be quick. One's going to be just want to get your thoughts on something. Now, listen, the nature of the beast, the wrestling business, let's face it, the women have a much shorter shelf life than the men, because a lot of it is looks. I mean, and I hate to say that, but it's the fact. Now, I know you, and I know how intelligent you are, and you have so many things going for you. Is there going to be another career after wrestling? Is there something like you really want to do that's already in motion as you go on, to the next plateau of your life that you haven't touched upon yet?
I mean, I have other interests, but the one thing that, because a lot of people have asked me that question, because obviously, I'm not starting my career right now. The one thing that I just want is that I want the same passion for whatever I do next that I have in wrestling, because truly it's been a gift from God for me to be able to do what I've been doing. I mean, it's not a job. I'm doing my passion, and I've been so lucky for that. I've been traveling the world and made friends and entertaining fans, meeting so many people and getting paid for it. I mean, that's what I want next in life, and to have great balance in my life. And right now I just feel like I have such great balance doing what I love and having my husband. And it's just, I want that to just continue.
Now, the last question revolves around the husband.
Okay,
Robert. Now, has he ever prepared a meal for you?
Yes, of course.
Okay, that you
not that many though.
Okay, what that you did not like?
Oh no, never.
Okay, if he did,
never.
Are you telling me the truth now?
I swear to you.
If he did,
ever.
Would you tell him?
I would tell him that it's not my favorite flavors. I wouldn't say, babe, I don't like this. It's awful, because honestly, I don't really think he's capable of making anything awful.
Now, have you cooked for him, and has he said, babe, that was awful?
No. But this is my theory, because a lot of people ask me that. They're like, do you cook for him? And I said, well, if we're together and we're cooking, why would I cook? That is such a waste of time.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
So, I mean, I've cooked him very simple things like eggs. And, I was the one who always cooked for 10 people before I met him. And I was the one that was like the chef. And then when I met him, I felt like, oh my God, am I doing it right? Am I doing it right?
Yeah,
I feel so self-conscious. I can't cook for anybody anymore. So all I do is cook for myself when I'm home.
Are you living in Florida now?
Yes.
Is he like on the road a lot, or does he? Is it like
yeah.
wrestling? Does he do it like he's gone for a week and then home for 3 weeks? How does it work with his schedule?
No, I mean, he's home on average 1 to 2 days a month.
Are you serious?
Yeah. So
holy crap.
People thought I traveled a lot with WWE. I basically travel the same, if not more, with now, because when I'm not wrestling with TNA on the road, I'm traveling with my husband. This week, just because of the way the schedules were going, I came home and we're planning a birthday this weekend, and I've been home, so I've been getting some stuff done. So you caught me at a perfect time.
So Gail, a lot of his stuff, because I watched the show, and a lot of it like is on location.
Yeah.
So when you go on the road with him, like what's the day like? Do you go to the location with him? Does
Sometimes.
he go to work and you do your thing? How does that work?
I'll go sometimes on set, but I've been on, it's like him coming to a wrestling show. Once he's kind of seen it, he comes at the right times. I come at the right times, when he does the reveal, when I have my match. But because we're on the road so much, that time is for me to run my errands that I can actually do, because some I can only do at home. So I'll just run my errands, go to the gym, run my day, get my stuff done, and then I'll meet with him, at the end of the night. So.
And it's been 3 years now, right?
No, that we've been together?
Yeah, didn't you get married in 2012?
I'm horrible with dates.
Oh my God, Gail, you gotta know how long you've been married, for crying out loud.
We've been together 7 years.
Yeah, but how long you been married for? You got married at some point, didn't you?
2012, yes.
Dude, that's what I said. You don't even know when you've been married.
Well, you know what? We both don't know.
Now, what about children? Is the careers too much when we're not going to have the children?
Well, he has 2 girls, and I have 2 wonderful stepchildren, but they're teenagers, which is perfect because, they're like friends of mine, and we all get along, and we have a really good situation. We're all really happy, and we don't have plans to have children. I know a lot of people get surprised by that, but I never had a strong urge to have children, and he's already had children. To be honest, we just want to enjoy our lives now.
Yeah.
And because I've been wrestling for a while, that's not something that has been a great importance to me. And I have a godchild now, Christy Hemmy's baby.
Yeah, Christy. I'm trying to get Hemi on the. No,
Okay.
I'm a little confused with Christy. I'm trying to get Christy Hemi on the show. She answers me, but
Yeah.
I'm kind of chasing her,
Yeah.
which is okay. I love
It's
Christy.
okay, because I chase her too. I'm one of her best friends.
But I got to ask you this, Gail. I'm a little confused. I thought Hemi was leaving TNA because she got a job somewhere else. And then she said to me, once I heard she was leaving, I was like, come on my show. You could talk about your new career. She's like, I can't talk about it yet. The end of August, I'll be able to talk. But I'm still seeing her on TNA.
Yeah, she's with TNA. And other than that, it's her business, so you got to talk to her.
Okay, but so she's not going to another. She's still with She's not going to another job.
As far as I know, she is not.
So she's still working with TNA.
Yes, she is.
Is she a good mother, this Christy Hemi?
Oh my gosh, yes. And her baby, my godchild, is the happiest baby and so cute.
Do you live close to her, Christy?
No, we're on opposite coasts.
Oh, okay. She's in California.
Yeah, she's in California. And don't worry, you're not the only one, because it'll take her a day to at least text back to me.
I mean, but with all due respect, Gail, with all due respect, I should hear from a Christy Hemi before I hear from a Gail Kim, with all due respect. Gail, you know what I want? I want to close up this interview by saying this.
She's a mom. She's busy.
Nah, don't give me that, Mom. Madison was another one. I went through the same thing with Madison with the kid. Everything was the kid. Finally, I got her on the show. I got to say this to you.
Yeah.
And I'm going to end it with this. You said this a couple of times during the interview, and I can't tell you how many times I said this when I was in the business. So many times I would find myself in a room by myself, and what I would be saying to myself is, I just want to be happy. I just want to be. That's all I would be saying to myself. I remember once, like, literally breaking down and saying, like, I want my life back.
Yeah.
But I love the fact that you went through all that, the trials and tribulations, and I love where you are now.
Yes,
you know,
me
with a
too.
company you love, a company that loves and respects you, a husband that loves and respects you, a great life. And I say it all the time. It's so cliche-ish. You know, good things happen to good people.
Right.
You know,
Thank
and
you.
and I'm just so happy that you're happy, because you're just one of those people I know that just, you know, deserves a bliss of happiness in your life.
Thanks, Vince.
Now, Gail, let's plug the TNA thing. I know you're the
Yes.
champion again now. I
Yes.
lost count, though. How many times now? 6?
5.
5 times. Okay, I
5.
know you're the champion again. I
Yeah.
know we're on tonight,
Yes.
9 o'clock, Destination America. I know we're
Mm-hmm.
on next week, and then we're just going to... Now, Bound for Glory's when?
Bound for Glory is October 4th. Is that right? Is that that's the Sunday?
Yeah, that's
Or is
that October 4th, and it's in Texas.
And it's
again?
in Charlotte, North
Oh, my
Carolina.
goodness, Charlotte, North Carolina.
And
who
it's going back to me and Awesome Kong again.
I gotta refresh my memory because I'm old. But
Okay.
I remember when I was there, you had a cage match with Kong, right?
No. Well, I've had a tag match with her in a cage. But when you and I were there, it was me and Jackie.
In the cage.
Yes.
Okay.
Me and Jackie Moore.
Yeah, you ever hear from Jackie Moore anymore?
I haven't heard from her for a long time. I mean, I'll see her on social media from
I
here.
got to try to track her down. You want to
Yeah.
talk about one of the real...
Toughest.
Forget
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
And a sweetheart.
Yes, she is.
Does she work
And
anymore independently or anything? I never
I
see
don't
her
think so.
around.
I don't think so. But it's amazing. You know what I did notice about her was, with her, wasn't it amazing to see? She was another one, like, I felt like a connection to her in some ways, because when I saw her in WWE, I never saw her really kind of come out of her shell. And then when she came to TNA, she just came out of her shell. I'm like, who is this Jackie? You know? So,
She
really great.
Well, Gail, thank you so much
No
for
problem.
today, and not only for today, for all the years of just having the pleasure of working. You're always one of my favorites, and I hope in a future episode you'll come back to me.
Yes, definitely, anytime.
All right, so Bound for Glory, Sunday, October 4th.
Yes.
And we still get TNA on pay-per-view, right?
Yes.
All right, Gail, thank you so much for joining us. Good luck with everything. I'll catch up with you again.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Pro Wrestling's history class is now in session with Back to the Territories. Join host Jim Cornette and J.J. Dillon as they explore Mid-Atlantic wrestling.
Sitting there with his hands like this was Jim Crockett Sr.
3.5 hours of wrestling history told through rare memorabilia and exclusive footage.
Nothing topped Wahoo McDaniel and Johnny Valentine.
Featuring over an hour of lost Mid-Atlantic film footage from Jim Cornette's collection.
The kid from Minnesota. It was going to be something. Ric Flair.
Head back to Mid-Atlantic Wrestling at ShootInterviews.com.